and I've shared this before, but like literally, when I saw my baby girl crawling on my living room, in my living room, and there's crack right next to her.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, what kind of father am I? Because I didn't know who to talk to about it. I didn't have a dad who was going to be like open enough to share his pains, his stories, his struggles. You know what I mean? And a mom who, you know, she's just trying to get by. She loves her baby boy, and she don't really have all the answers for a man.
What's up?
And Chizzy
Podcast where the journey continues.
Yes, it does. I'm good, man. How you feeling?
Good, bro. Clayton State University.
Clayton State, got to represent for my son, man. Clayton State, track team.
Yeah, man.
Here in Georgia, in Morrow, Georgia, man. Clayton State. Let's do it, man.
And we have a special guest that I'm excited, man. My brother from another mother, Team Light Skin. In the building right now.
I feel isolated
and
right
he
now,
is
man.
known in these streets as Chief Light Skin.
That's right.
Okay.
More than that, he's a powerful man of God. He's a dedicated husband. He's a loving father. He's a top-notch professional, man. And it's a pleasure. Welcome to the Boy Man King Podcast.
Welcome, man.
Always,
Welcome. We're looking forward to this one, man. We've had some conversations off camera and off podcast, so we're gonna jump right into it, man. Welcome to Boy Man King. The journey continues. My man PJ, I had an amazing time meeting you. I met you first time at the retreat. Prayer Warriors Global Retreat. That was amazing. The man behind the technical side of the retreat, man. So I definitely see your skill sets in that regard. Let's talk a little bit about the man before the man.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what it was like growing up, what your experiences were as a youngster, as a boy, how you transitioned through adolescence and teenage years. Tell us a little bit about your story on Boy Man King today, man.
Yeah, first off, we just want to say just a pleasure and an honor, man, with y'all. It's always just so fun to be this space.
Yeah.
You know, because that's always what I want as a boy. That's what I wanted so desperately. So, it's just been amazing just to be here. Grew up in San Diego, California.
Okay.
Only child, you know what I'm saying? And it was different. I remember just being on my bike a lot.
Yeah.
Just riding through the city, you know, latchkey kid kind of thing. And, man, it was just, it was one of those things that, like, I just saw my parents work, you know, hard a lot. And I just had a lot of free time to, like, figure things out. Like, and it was to the point where I was just really adventurous. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I had that kind of time.
And we know what happens. We know what happens if a boy in adventure.
Yeah. I would just, you know, I felt like I could just ride through the city. You know what I mean? But definitely, you know, in the 80s, in Southern California, there was heavy gang activity. Yeah. So, you know, wasn't in it. I mean, it was around me a lot. So definitely had that exposure. Early on, you know, being introduced to hip hop music. I remember when I had my first Sony, and I had Rakim playing. Okay. And I'd just be walking down the street.
I ain't no joke.
And it was just like, you know, it was one of those things where I really embraced just being a young kid at that time to like know that, man, I thought the sky's the limit at that time. Yeah. Then things transitioned when my parents split.
Okay.
How old were you when that happened?
I was about 7. Yeah. I remember that so vividly. I was riding my bike. Yeah. And, you know, my dad, you know, he came up and was like, hey, man, I want to talk to you. You know, he started giving me the talk like, you know, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But me and your mom, I'm going to be staying somewhere else. And so goes the story, but I just remember, like, in that moment, like, my world, it was like everything just dropped. The whole dream, the whole adventure, all of that just, like, plummeted instantly. Wow. I was like, oh, this is real. And from that day, like, forward, I was always trying to now chase what that was look like.
So did you stay with mom? You stayed with your mom?
Yeah.
Did you visit dad throughout that time? What was that like?
Yeah, so, I stayed with moms. Then I realized, we struggling. We poor. You know what I mean? Like, things is deep. I remember when, like, cooking dinner for moms and me, 6, 7, 8 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Yeah, like, coming to the house. I used to have to take a taxi to school. Moms had to get this dude that was like with an old dirty Jerry curl. You know what I'm saying?
In the 80s.
DJ is dating himself.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Jerry curl.
Yeah.
So glow.
Man, PJ,
I did. I mean, I remember my mom's, no lie, we had this old Toyota, I can't remember. It was an old kind of Toyota, but she literally had to lift her butt up off the seat to get it started.
Okay.
Like, because it wouldn't start any other way.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, we grew up, and at that time, again, in the ghetto of San Diego, it's like, there ain't no ghetto. No, San Diego got ghettos.
Yeah.
Like it's real out there. I remember seeing a lot of times, cops just coming out the van, with the sawed off, ready to, take somebody down for this, that, and the third. And, my dad was staying on the other side of town. He had a new family, so I'd go, stay with them on the weekends. But it was just different.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
you know what I mean? It was
insane.
vastly different.
Yeah.
Because I know there was still the tension and the heat between them and his inconsistencies. I started realizing those, you know what I mean? Though I still wanted my father, I still yearned for my father, but yet he wasn't there to provide that for me.
Right.
Both physically, emotionally, or any of that. And so I started getting into my own shell then.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did that lead? So now we're talking about adolescence. So you said you was 7, 8 years old
Yeah.
when your dad left. So what was it like in middle school? How did that translate into your relationships in middle school? How did you define yourself as a young boy, if you can remember?
Yeah.
What was that like in middle school to high school?
Man, I remember, so by that time we had pivoted. My mom decided to move back to Maryland. That's where she's originally from. So she was like, I'm coming back home. So we go from, big city living to country, living. And that was like total culture shock. It was like where I was riding my bike and I could be free to you can't go across the street. Right. You can't go up to the where was it? Oh, I can't remember that spot. The trailer park. I was like, hey, why can't I go up there? It's just a walk away. Like, why? And it was like, no, you can't do none of that. And so, and then coming to a new school, a new environment. The one saving grace was that my mom met my stepdad at that time, and he had a 10-year-old son, because we moved back here like when I was making that transition 9 to 10, and me and him connected instantly. It was like, we liked it. Okay, yeah, I am dating myself. We love playing Nintendo. You know what I'm saying? Tecmo Bowl. We was like,
shout out to Tecmo.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Was you Bo Jackson or were you Joe Montana? Which one were you?
I was definitely Bo Jackson. Definitely Bo Jackson.
I used to go, look, I take Joe Montana, I'm running all the way back to the other end zone.
No, I'm going to tell you who I was.
That's 100 yards.
I don't know what y'all talking about.
I'm going to tell you who I was for real, was Houston Oilers with Warren Moon.
And your boy, what's the, Oral Campbell?
Yes. Oh, I used to tear him up with the Houston Oilers.
You know who else was tough? Christian Okoye.
Christian Okoye on the Super Tecmo Bowl? Oh my goodness. He was smashed. Because Bo Jackson would get hurt. And he get injured. He was like, he could run through everybody, but Christian Okoye was smashed. I know, we really dating ourselves. But yes. So, I got really into, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
That whole culture of, hip-hop. You know what I'm saying? I had a brother, so I was no longer, I wasn't an only child.
Yeah.
And so, it was like, me and him kind of, got together and was able to create that identity with one another. And, going through middle school, it was like, and the best way I could describe it was all through that adolescent period, I was a nerd, but I was like a hip hop cool nerd. You know what I'm saying? Like I was about getting good grades, but I was about listening to like Diggable Planets and Digital Underground, and you know what I'm saying, like learning how to dance and learn all these other things.
Breakdancer?
You had your raccoon hat?
Man,
Bro, you had the cardboard box on the ground,
when I saw a cardboard box, I didn't just see a cardboard box. I saw a stage.
Man, you know how real shit you get from a cardboard box.
Kid and play. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like we used to have, me and my brother had the polka dot suits with the patent leathers. Like that's that's how deep it was.
We gonna have to put some B-roll on this episode right here, bro. There's like mad B-roll in this episode, man.
This is a hip hop episode,
help y'all with the context of the value that he's
Oh
right
man,
now.
you just don't know.
Did you do the Kid and Play dance?
We did the split with all that. Oh my goodness, man. When we would go to a dance, it was like they knew we was about to just shut it down.
Oh, okay.
They knew it. Yeah, they knew it. They knew we was gonna shut it down. Right. And it was like,
so you gonna show us some of those moves at some point? Nah.
The way my knees are set up, it's not going down like that. But yeah, definitely. You know what I mean? It was we grew up in an environment, two family home, 2-parent home.
Right.
Worked very hard. You know what I'm saying? And just instilled certain values. Going to church every day, grew up, you know what I mean? Shout out to, the AME. That's what we grew up at. Okay. So it was choir rehearsal, usher board, youth group, all of those things. And it really just like, we was in that space, that environment where we was, one, getting introduced to God. And then two, we was able to just, live like that, what I would say, kind of like the Cosby, Family Matters type of environment.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So what you've described currently seems to be pretty quote unquote normal. And I know, like I said, we had some conversations on camera.
It definitely transitioned.
About the other side.
Yeah.
When did that transition take place? Was it in?
But before you go that far, that far, when you get to high school, tell me how it is, because you done dated yourself, but we got it on camera.
We do.
So obviously the 80s and the early 90s, it was big things popping for you.
Yeah.
So back then, light skin was still there, so you was light skin with green eyes.
Oh my goodness.
What was your high school experience with girls, man? We want to know.
I'm gonna put it out there. It was so whack.
Really?
It was so whack. I was like, because all of that stuff, but I was so nervous to talk to girls, like, on a consistent level. You know what I'm saying? It was just, I would just clam up.
Right.
I would just be like, because I was like, it was cool to be friends with them, but then they go to that next level. I was just like,
the shyness kicks in.
I was like,
Right.
But yeah, so on that level, and it was like I had all the tools, right? I had everything that was given to
the
me.
light skin, the light eyes.
And I didn't know the power that I had. That's what Gladys tells me. She said, "You just didn't know, baby, did you?"
I was like, "Bro, you had to have a, you know what I'm saying? You had to have a beggar for homecoming, the prom, homecoming dance.
I'll tell you when it changed,
house party.
Because I was always kind of chubby though, right? So when I was in California, I was skinny, but when I got here, like grandma's. Because I went from, just all that living and then just sitting there eating like homemade chicken pot pies and Sundays. Right. I went, I was kind of chunky. But then my senior year, I don't hoop, but I just played basketball in Houston. That's where my dad was at the time. I lost mad weight. And that's when, this is again dating myself, Nautica gear was like popping. Wow. Yeah. Wow. And I went fresh to death.
Listen, the sponsorship.
Yo, with
more B-roll that we showed. God was flexing in the Nautica.
It was either Hilfiger or Nautica. I don't know, but we don't do that. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So when I came back my senior year, it definitely changed. And it was like, I was like, oh, okay. But you know what I'm saying? It came on later in life, when I realized the power that I did have.
Right.
I just did. But honestly, because of the relationship that I always had with my mom, like I always had a high level of respect for women. Because my mom's, you know, the things that I seen her do in her life, like the way she's like overcome so much and just how close we was.
Sure.
It was just like, it was paramount to me. And the way I had a relationship with my grandmother, you know what I'm saying? Like she was the one, you know, take me to bingo, take me to church, you know what I mean? Like I always had a deep level of love and respect for women and just what they go through day in and day out. And then I was like, I didn't want to treat women just like an objectifier.
And that's a big point, bro, because like how you're saying, I had an opposite experience where, you know, I'll never forget my cousin. I never forget this. We was in the truck. I was in high school and I was a basketball player. Yeah. And he was like, yo, how many you got? And that coach was saying, how many girls you slept with?
Right.
And he was like, yeah, because when I was around your age, I had about 20. Slayed them.
Right.
And I was like, yeah.
I got about 5.
Hey, made up a number on the spot.
That probably was probably like 2 or 1 or maybe even none, right?
Bruh, I was like, the pressure that you felt and then didn't realize that this is somebody you admire and respect. So there was a male, and immediately the subconscious that I was projecting onto women, because it was projected onto me, was to objectify them. Yeah. Right? Which made me struggle in that connection, because my initial approach was an approach from something I had to win. You know, not a person I had to connect with. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's huge, because as men, that really is the basis of how that interaction starts. You know what I mean? And it's not until you mature and learn about the person and connect that you stop seeing that as something that you have to divide and conquer compared to someone.
And it's not even attached to your identity as a man.
Yeah.
Because society will have you believe that that's your identity as a man. Being a man is having multiple women, having a lot of women. And so, like you said, once you mature, no longer is that a part of your narrative for yourself. Yeah. You know, but
it could take 20 years.
Yeah, it takes and some people never get to that. Some men in the grown 40, 50 years of age still have that false identity of how they objectify women and how they feel they're defined by women. You know?
Bro, that's real. And so to me, it's like I see the blessing in how you was raised. I see the blessing in how you looked at your mom and your grandma, because that helped you coming in understand, now this is a person first.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
That's what it's about. So that's awesome, bro.
Yeah. No, I love it.
So we in high school.
Yeah.
We rocking the Nautica.
Yeah. Then it's off to
college.
college.
What year you graduated from high school?
96.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Right,
and then
right in the middle of it.
Then I went, and then I went to Morgan State.
Okay.
HBCU, yeah.
Oh.
And then.
So what I'm about to say, we get
you just got an epiphany at 6.
Yeah. So when
now it becomes actual.
Right. Yeah. And then I got to college, and it was like, I'm light skinned with green eyes.
I can do this.
And it was a wonderful experience. Love, I always wanted to go to college. HBCU, obviously, had this,
Shout out to the HBCU.
HBCUs all day. Yeah. I had the blacker the college, the sweeter the knowledge, T-shirt on. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because you was watching, you know what I'm saying? What was it? A Different World. Different World. Yeah. So it was like...
Different World was popping.
It was popping at the time. And I was like, I couldn't help. And
did you
wait, I didn't get the Dwayne Wayne. I was more like Ron. Okay, yeah. You know what I'm saying? I had the glasses. I just had the glasses without the flips.
I can see that.
Because you mentioned the nerd that was always there.
Yeah, he was always there. Yeah. And so get to college and everything's popping. Was dating this young lady, and I remember so vividly. This is where the transition happened. My brother, one of my close friends, shout out to my boy H.I. Harry. He came home I came home that one winter, and he had this beat machine. Yeah. Right? It was this Boss DR5, little small joint like this. He's like, yo, I got this beat machine. And him and my brother, the one I grew up with, Mark, he played the guitar. So he was like, yeah. He showed me the beat machine. And then instantly I was like, I don't know where it came from, but I said, yo, we can make money off this.
For sure.
I don't know where that entrepreneurial thing, like nobody said that to me. And all of a sudden I was like, yo, let's just start making hip hop music. Mm-hmm. And the whole college thing, just like, I was still in college, but I wasn't in college no more. Mm-hmm. Like I was all into making music. Yeah. Because I knew my brothers knew how to make music. I was going to figure out whatever else needed to happen and find rappers. And then, it went crazy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I went from, A, B, on scholarship to, smoking blunts and wilding out and just trying to, get a track together.
So do you think it was aligned with the music, the choice? What do you think where do you think that came from? What do you think cultivated the environment of you now being somebody somewhat different from where you were when you was a freshman? What do you think that is? Where do you think?
I'll go back to that little boy that was told by his dad that he wasn't going to be around no more. And I was still trying to figure out when he was going to come back. Okay. I didn't have full affirmation of who I was as a man growing up. Shout out to my dad, my stepdad who raised me. Sure. And all that, but I was still seeking and searching for my identity through the person that was the one that gave me life. And I never really fully got that growing up. And I was just trying to figure out some way, again, back to, like people pleasing, but I was really seeking some kind of identity about who I was in all of it because I really didn't know what that meant for me. Okay. I was always, just seeking for like, affirmation and attention. Right. But ultimately it was from the person that I wanted it the most was from my father. From your father.
Yeah. So you get the epiphany with the mixer DJ machine. Yeah. Right? And you start to make a shift as far as the environments that you're in. And because I guess the high dopamine that gave you as an adrenaline rush, like, we can make money off of this, and it's hitting me differently. Like, I'm actually thinking about a career change, life change, all of that. Yeah. And what comes with that at the time is some other elements of society, which include, objectifying women, drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And are you indulging because you're caught up in the dopamine and the high of what you're doing, or you're trying to soothe the pain of not knowing your identity? And so this is more like a coping mechanism to do it and to do the elements that come with it.
Yeah, that's good. Man, it's like a both and, I'm not given the right tools to understand what a man should be, right? But I'm around dudes that kind of like look like a man. They talking like a man, you know what I'm saying? We all acting like men, quote unquote. That's so I'm looking for that. I'm trying to be in that crowd because we're always looking for a group to be a part of. And so that's what I was just like, this is the lane for me to be, because I wasn't going to do nothing dumb. Like, I wasn't going to do nothing to get me in jail. Again, I'm light-skinned, green eyes. It don't look good in the prison system, right? So
the gang life wasn't for you.
That gang life wasn't for me. Yeah. But this was, like, enough to be on the edge where I could feel like I'm attached to something that gets me into that stage where, that brotherhood. And so I'm doing it for that, and I'm doing it also because I really don't know who the heck PJ is. Sure. And so I'm figuring, like, okay, well, this is going to, like, as a coping mechanism for those pains because I didn't know who to talk to about it. I didn't have a dad who was going to be like open enough to share his pains, his stories, his struggles, you know what I mean? And a mom who, she's just trying to get by. She loves her baby boy and she don't really have all the answers for a man. And then I have a step-pops, shout out to him, but he grew up in a time and an environment where that's just not something he's experienced. So he's doing the best he can with what he has, which is I got to make sure that my boys are on the best path possible and trying to figure out life. But he taught me a whole lot of stuff about manhood, but at the time I was like, I don't even know how to apply that. Right. I don't even know what that looks like.
So what was the time that you had an aha moment that you said to yourself, I'm a man?
Or what you thought was a man?
When I realized that I needed to go get custody of my daughter. So when this was like, I'm heavy in the game at this time. I got my own house. I got my own car. I got, have a studio. I got plenty of artists. I'm working full time. I'm an usher at the church.
Okay.
And I was in this relationship and things went south. And I realized I need my daughter to be with me.
Right.
Because being with her mom is not an option.
Yeah.
And everybody was saying, like, PJ, like, that's not gonna go down. I was like, I don't know how it's gonna go down, but it's gonna go down today.
Right.
And so I just did everything I could to make that possible.
How old was your daughter? How old were you?
I was 30.
How old was your daughter?
Yeah, my daughter was 9 months.
Wow.
And so you went in with the intent to get full custody of your daughter.
Yes.
And was it more centered around her safety, or was it because you felt that you need to have the most impact on your daughter from then on and moving forward? What was your motivation as to why you felt it necessary to have your daughter with you?
I felt like I gave her the best option possible, because at the time I really didn't deserve her,
Right.
like my daughter,
Yeah.
because of what I was doing and what environment I was putting her in.
Sure.
And I've shared this before, but like literally, when I saw my baby girl crawling on my living room, in my living room, and there's crack right next to her.
Wow.
Like, I'm like, what kind of father am I
Right.
that would allow that to happen? What kind of father am I to allow a female singer in my own studio get slapped by a producer because he wants to go get something from her?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I saw that.
Okay.
What kind of father am I to allow, just multiple drug deals and licit, like crazy wilding out stuff happen in my house, in my environment, in my space, and be okay with it? Like, I don't even deserve this human being that God blessed me with. And it was like, you know what? You better figure it out,
Right.
because you're gonna lose way more than what you signed up for.
Yeah.
And I was just like, nope, I gotta make a pivot. And that's when I realized, like, yeah, this is about being a man.
Yeah. Yeah. How long were you in? And how long was that time from when you started the music, had your daughter? Like, how long would you say you were entrenched in a different space of your development?
Oh, it was probably 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was all into like right when I was about 19, right until I was 30, because it was like it was a space where I was constantly trying to prove something. I'm a very ambitious person.
Right.
Like I have an addiction to achievement. That's my thing. And because I'm trying to, again, prove something to my dad, and that I don't even need to prove really to him anymore. And that's no disrespect to him. It's just like I'm you know what I mean? God's given me the space to be who I am, but it's always that thing that I was chasing. Right. So I'm always going to be like, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this to the fullest. Whether it's the music, whether it's school, whether it's my job, I'm always going to try to achieve the highest level that I can. But that becomes a hindrance, because sometimes what I block out is the people that it impacts around me.
Yeah. I think a lot of men who are, especially when I was in the achievement space, do that. But I want to circle back to something. Because you mentioned after his last question that still looking for like your father's validation. So you talked about the separation. You talked about your stepfather. You talked about you being a father. How has things been with your father?
So a couple years ago, excuse me, I had to make a decision with my father. So full disclosure, when I was young, before they separated and everything, I was sexually molested as a child, right? and like maybe 3, 4 by my babysitter and by a good, friend, somebody that I hung out with, right? So that really set me off on a whole identity crisis in itself.
Yeah.
Because now, not only do I not have my father there, I also have this issue of like my sexual identity is for like as a man growing up in a hypersensitive 90s era where hip hop misogynistic and I'm in the background like, I was sexually abused. Where do I put that? Can you take this luggage, somebody, please?
Yeah. Jeez.
And so fast forward, I realized that like, these things are also attributed to my father in a way, right? And I came to a point where, man, it was to the point where I had to realize that like I had to let that relationship go.
Yeah.
And I'm still processing it.
So currently, what's the relationship like with you and Dad currently?
We don't talk.
Okay.
Yeah, last year I made the decision to cut that relationship off. It's still one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. There's not a day goes by that I don't think about him. But at the same time, I still have to live with the fact that that was the best decision, not only for myself but my family.
That's a hard one as a man. I had to deal with a parent, and me and my family, and we had to have a hard, because I was like, and I had to be honest, I was like, I'm debating whether you're going to be in our lives again, you know? And the reality is the hard part. See, people that talk about all the cool stuff or all the ideal stuff of a man, but there's a lot of hard parts as a man where one of the roles is to protect your family and your livelihood and your children, even from family members.
Yeah.
Right? And that is a hard conversation to have, but it is your responsibility as a man, man. So, yeah, man, I'm glad you shared that, man. And what advice you would give someone who's been molested, and like how have you been able to heal and cope with that?
The best thing for you to do is not hide. Because when there's a hope and there's healing in the power of you just using your voice to let people know you've been hurt. That you've been because a lot of times when somebody is in that space, they feel like, I know I felt it and I've heard it from other people, they felt like they were the person that was wrong in that situation. For me, I felt like, and I've never been in war, but I felt like there was a million bombs going off inside of me because I couldn't express what was going on. So every time something like that came up and I felt wrong, it was like that. And you gotta have a way. I would encourage anybody to just, if nobody wants to listen, continue to let somebody know until that one person listens and takes it to heart and then like moves forward with it with you. That person for me was Gladys, my wife.
Wow. Shout out to your wife.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So talk about that, man. So now
we're getting into kingship. We you
get your daughter. I'm assuming you got your daughter.
Yeah. She's with me. She's causing me all kind of issues. You know what I'm saying?
But you wouldn't have it no other way.
I would have it no other way.
Yeah, man. Nice.
So you're in your house. You looking at your daughter, but you say, I got my daughter, but she's crawling next to the crack, and now you realize, I'm letting a lot of stuff happen. I'm a 30-year-old man. I'm letting a lot of stuff happen that's really not in alignment with who I am and where I want to be. How do you go from that to Gladys?
Yeah.
And then, where you guys are now.
Man, it's total God moment.
Yeah.
Like, literally, total God moment. Because I was like, yo, I'm about to be a single dad, all these things. And God was like, yeah, okay. And it was like, I cut off everything, filing for custody, still doing the music at that time. And it was at a point where I had to make a decision because we were in a space where wherever I decided to go, because I was leading everything. I was the president. I was I was the puffy of us.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
So whatever I said went.
Yeah.
And I had to get I was at a point where it was like, if I said go, we would have went to the whatever height that was, and it would have catapulted. But I was like in a space where I was like, yo, God was moving with me in this storm where I had to make that critical decision of which way I was going to go. And so in that moment where I was trying to figure everything out, I was at the club. And I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do with all of this? And I had a show, one of my artists, my main artist, he had a show. And it was funny because Gladys came with some friends that I went to school with. Right. And I kind of saw her in the corner of my eye, but I didn't really know her because I was so focused on the show. Yeah. And then the next night, we was at the club. We call it a social gathering for our kids. They were like, well, how did y'all meet? We're at a social gathering with friends. So that's where we was at. Right. And then, man, it was like a month time in between there where I met her and we hung out. And by the end, like 2-3 days later, we're together. Yeah. It was like, it just happened just like that. Wow. And I remember on the third day, I told her I loved her. And sometimes it's like, well, how did you know? It was like, there was no question that this was like God planted her specifically for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, I'm not messing this up. Because in my mind, I thought, I'm going to be a single dad. I'm going to do my own thing. I'll figure it out. I didn't want no parts of a relationship. And then, but when I saw her and I saw how she was, how she saw me and how she saw Kendall, I was like, yo, this is the real deal. And I was like, I'm not looking back. And I was like, I'm definitely not jacking it up.
And how long you guys been together?
We've been together 12 years. Wow. Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you get to this space. Mm-hmm. Now you are a successfully married father of two. Three.
Right. Gemma Grace.
Yeah. Yeah. 3, and man of God, where are you taking this, and why?
Yeah. And it's funny because I'm learning this literally through you, Crump. I'm taking it to where God wants it to go. Yeah. Like, I don't put as much of remember I said highly ambitious. I don't put that much heaviness on it anymore. Mm-hmm. I literally want to relearn how to love and enjoy my family. Yeah. Now, especially what we went through with Gemma last year. Yeah. And so for the sake of sharing it, it's like when Gemma was born, she was born with an AV canal defect, basically a hole in her heart. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And going through that experience as a parent, not knowing literally day by day if your child is going to live or die, it changed something in me as a father, as a man, as a husband that will never, ever go away. Yeah. Like, it's a constant reminder, life is really fragile. Life matters. And you better take advantage of enjoying it as best as you can and not get caught up in, we got to get to this level, we got to make this deal, we got to make that opportunity. Those things are there. Yeah. I'm not saying they aren't there, but it's very critical because you will miss the humanity of those that God has put in your charge and in your space to love, appreciate, value, enjoy, and you'll get back and you because you won't get it back. Yeah. And a lot of parents we saw weren't able to get it back. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. A lot of marriages aren't able to get it back. A lot of kids that we're talking about right now aren't able to get it back if they don't see that pivot that they can make. Yeah. Because the culture, the society that we live in is just trying to bull rush you into whatever it is that they want to bull rush you into. Yeah.
And I think for me, man, that's so why I'm so intentional. We had these conversations, frankly, with my wife and kids in the open because I see what the mass media is trying to influence. I see that there's an algorithm to your Google search that they're having data and stuff and marketing tactics with pixels attached to your device and to your Instagram or to your social platforms. And I'm like, people are targeting you for their benefit.
Yep.
Nobody's reaching out to any of my family members or any of my children or my wife and saying, hey, I just want to make sure you become a phenomenal wife. I just want to make sure that you become a phenomenal Christian. I just want to make sure you become a phenomenal support to your dad. Nobody is targeting my wife and kids and doing that.
Right.
That's my responsibility. And so it's my responsibility to educate, but also protect, but also empower, also nurture. So I receive it, man, because I think a lot of times we miss that part.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it's important that you share that and that we had that conversation, because that is the part that we struggle with, because you think things are one way, but like you said, you had to literally relearn how to love your own family. You know what I mean?
And it's being okay to be coachable to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When we talk about like with our wives and them being the person that like sees us at our truest form, like that's what I get from Gladys. And them conversations, they are rough. She hits me harder than I've probably ever been hit ever in my life. And I'm talking about physical fights. In love. Yeah, man. And that's a hard thing to figure out sometimes, because in the moment, you want to revert back to the toxic masculinity, all of that. The ego, the affirmation piece, I'm always wrong and I'll never get it right, all of those things, when it's actually this person loves you so much that they're willing to put themselves on the line to let you know, I see something greater in you, and let's just kind of figure that out.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story, man.
Yeah.
And the journey continues. Because you don't wake up one day to just know and have it.
No.
So even in this kingship, even as we all try to transition into king, every day you have to renew your mind. Every day, iron sharpens iron. So we have to associate ourselves with brothers who can continue to hold us accountable, who can continue to sharpen us and make us better, and have these real conversations and be able to help other brothers who are struggling with the exact same thing. That's why these platforms are vital for men, because we aren't having these conversations, and we need to be able to have these conversations and provide support and resources for men who need to just come into their kingship as we're supposed to do, as men and as godly men, more importantly, man.
No doubt.
That's amazing, man.
So as you leave us with your final thoughts, man, want to thank you for, being behind the scenes of the Boy Man King podcast, man, with your technical expertise, bro.
I love it.
It's been a blessing. But what if you want to leave the world with something? You want to leave a message? You want to leave a narrative? What is that?
Don't hate on the light skin and green eyes.
I like it. I love it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we out here trying to live our life.
Trying to live too.
You know what I'm saying? We trying to do our... But that's what I want to leave, man. Just laugh and enjoy it, man. There's so much stuff out here that's heavy, and we all got heaviness, but we need each other, and we really got to be at that level where we just kind of let loose, kick it and build those relationships. That's what God is about. He's about relationship. And there's a show that I watched, The Chosen, right? And it's about Jesus and the 12. And I encourage anybody out there, go watch that.
What platform is it
It's
on?
it's like his own platform. You get on the Chosen app, and I think it's on Peacock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but watch The Chosen, and it's like, okay, it's a depiction, right? And but it gives such an authentic, raw depiction of like how Jesus and the 12 and the rest of the environment it just is. And I think sometimes we get lost in that when we talk about the religion, the Bible, and all those things, because we just we read these stories, we're like, okay, what does that mean? But it's like, those are just people trying to figure out life, and they came from all different dynamics and backgrounds. And that's what we got to get to. So that's what I believe.
Okay.
Awesome. And listen, man, you heard it here.
Yes, sir.
Man, what an incredible episode. And just a reminder to the fact that as much as we want to be ambitious and driven and determined, and as much as we go through some crazy things that wasn't our fault, that sometimes that, it was hurtful and painful, that we still have a responsibility, one to another, but also to be grateful and to be coachable. You know what I mean? So I thank you so much for sharing what you shared, man.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
It, man.
It's the Boy Man King
Boy
podcast.
Man King, the journey continues.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate y'all.